He was the kid who did not fit in anywhere, too foreign for the new country he had just moved to, and slowly drifting away from the old one he had left behind. He got bullied at school for being different, and he hid from the world inside cartoons and comic books, a skinny outsider who felt like he belonged absolutely nowhere. Today, that same kid is one of the biggest superstars combat sports has ever produced, a former two-time world champion who carries 2 entire nations on his back every single time he walks to the cage. This is the story of Israel Adesanya, the outsider who became a champion for 2 homelands. It begins in Lagos, Nigeria. Israel Adesanya was born on the 22nd of July, 1989, in Lagos, the eldest of 5 children. His father was an accountant and his mother a nurse, a hard-working family chasing a better future. And when Israel was still a boy, they made an enormous decision. They left almost everything behind and moved to the other side of the world, to New Zealand, so their children could have a better education and a better life. But for a young Nigerian kid, starting over in a distant, unfamiliar country was brutal. He was bullied for being different, for his accent, for the way he looked, for simply standing out. He no longer felt fully Nigerian, and he did not feel like he belonged in New Zealand either. He was a boy caught between 2 worlds, fitting into neither. So he found refuge in the things that made him feel alive. He fell in love with Japanese anime and manga, those stories where a lonely outcast trains obsessively and slowly becomes something powerful. He connected with that so deeply that years later it would give him his famous nickname, the Last Stylebender, pulled straight out of a cartoon he loved. And he could dance. He was genuinely good at it, competing in dance battles all across New Zealand. Long before he was ever a fighter, Israel Adesanya was an artist and a dreamer, a creative kid searching for somewhere to belong. Then, at 18 years old, he watched a Muay Thai film called Ong Bak, and something inside him lit up. He walked into a gym in Auckland called City Kickboxing, and for the first time in his life, he found the place he was meant to be. It turned out he was a natural. He had a body built for striking, and a mind that treated fighting like an art form. He built a fearsome kickboxing record, fought all over the world, including the unforgiving circuit in China, and became one of the most dangerous strikers anywhere. The outcast had finally found his home and his weapon. From there, he switched to mixed martial arts, and he rose like almost no one before him. He made his UFC debut in 2018, and in barely a year, he was a champion. He won the interim middleweight title in an absolute war with Kelvin Gastelum, a fight so good it was later inducted into the Hall of Fame, and then he unified the belt by knocking out the fearsome Robert Whittaker in front of a roaring crowd in Australia. The kid who once belonged nowhere was now the king of an entire division. And he did it his way, dancing to the cage, quoting anime, celebrating with total flamboyance. Fans around the world fell in love with him. If you are enjoying this story of the outsider who conquered the world, take a second to subscribe. We break down the real lives, the struggles, and the legacies behind the biggest names in fighting every single week. But every great story needs a nemesis, and Adesanya had one. His name was Alex Pereira, and he was the one man who had beaten Israel back in their kickboxing days, years earlier. Then, like a ghost from the past, Pereira followed him all the way to the UFC, climbed the same division, and took Adesanya's middleweight title away from him. It was the lowest point of his career, the old rival catching up to him at the worst possible moment. But Adesanya refused to let it end there. In the rematch, he knocked Pereira out cold, avenging years of pain and doubt with a single, perfect punch. It remains one of the most emotional redemption moments the sport has ever produced. So let us talk about what he actually built. Estimates of Israel. Adesanya's net worth vary quite a bit, from around $4 million on the lower end to as much as 10 to 15 million, earned through his fights, major sponsorship deals, and his investments. But the money was never really the point of his story. Adesanya became something far bigger than a fighter. For Nigeria, and for the whole continent of Africa, he became a symbol of what a kid from Lagos could achieve on the world stage. For New Zealand, and for every immigrant child who ever felt like they did not fit in, he became living proof that the outsider can belong and can win. He carries both flags with pride, honors both of the homes that made him, and still dreams of building an anime company one day, never forgetting the lonely boy who found himself inside those cartoons. Of course, the story is still being written, and the recent chapters have been humbling. After years of standing on top of the sport, Adesanya hit a hard stretch, losing his title and then dropping several fights in a row, the aura of the untouchable king starting to fade. At this stage of his career, the questions are loud and impossible to ignore. Is the magic gone for good, or does the outsider have one more comeback left in him? It is the same doubt he faced as a bullied kid all those years ago, except now it plays out under the brightest lights in the world. So step back and look at the whole picture. A bullied immigrant boy who belonged nowhere, who escaped into cartoons and dance, grew up to represent two nations, headline the biggest arenas on earth, and inspire millions of people who felt just as out of place as he once did. Whether or not he ever wins another world title, that part of his story is already complete, and it already meant something to more people than a belt ever could. So here is the question worth sitting with. Years from now, when people tell the story of Israel Adesanya, will they focus on the belts and the losses, or on the fact that a lonely outsider from Lagos became a hero to two entire countries and every kid who never fit in? Drop your take in the comments, we genuinely want to hear it. And if you want more real stories from the world of fighting, the struggles, the comebacks, and the legacies behind the biggest names, hit subscribe and stick around. We have a new one for you every single week.